Like many of you, I was highly anticipatory of Taylor Swift's new album, which she so inconveniently dropped the weekend of TutorCon. I guess, she didn't consult me first, but there you go. But on Friday, in between running errands, I was listening and I was thrilled when I saw that the first single was a song with a Shakespearean Easter egg. And now everybody's Googling who on earth is Ophelia and what exactly was her fate. Well, I have an answer for that. Here is the quick answer. Ophelia is a tragic character from Shakespeare's Hamlet, and her story is one of the most famous examples of how women were treated and silenced in Elizabethan drama. She's the girl who loved Hamlet, she lost everything, she went mad, and she drowned in a brook. It's dark, it's beautiful, and it's been inspiring art and music for centuries. So when Taylor Swift sings about Travis Kelce saving her from the fate of Ophelia, she's telling us something powerful. She didn't go under, she didn't lose her voice, and she didn't drown. Instead, she is rewriting Ophelia's ending. So, my friend, get comfy, grab a coffee or a water. I've got a Diet Coke from McDonald's this morning. But either way, settle in, because today we are going to explore who Ophelia was, what her fate actually meant, and what it says about the role of women in Elizabethan society. Hey friend, welcome back to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. I am your host, Heather, and I've been podcasting on Tudor England since 2009 with my show, which makes it the original Tudor History Podcast. I am, as always, just delighted, possibly even thrilled that you are here with me today to talk about Ophelia, Shakespeare, and Elizabethan women, some things I love to talk about. Let's set the stage literally. Shakespeare's Hamlet is, of course, one of the greatest plays in the English language. But don't worry, I'm not going to make you sit through all 5 acts today. Here's the quick summary, the Cliff Note version, if you will. Prince Hamlet is devastated when his father, the King of Denmark, dies suddenly. His mother, Queen Gertrude, wastes no time and marries his uncle Claudius, who has conveniently taken the throne. Hamlet is, of course, not thrilled. Then the ghost of Hamlet's father shows up and drops a bombshell. Claudius is the one who murdered him. Revenge plot engaged. What follows is a tale of spiraling paranoia, betrayal, murder, and existential angst. To be or not to be. Yep, that's this play. And right in the middle of all of this chaos is Ophelia. She's the daughter of Polonius, the king's chief advisor, and she's also sister of Laertes. Most importantly for our story, she's Hamlet's love interest, maybe his almost fiancé, depending on how you read the play. But in this world where politics, power, and men's decisions drive everything, Ophelia does not stand much of a chance. So let's do a little zoom in on Ophelia herself. Who was she really? Ophelia is young, noble, and beautiful. Shakespeare never tells us her age, but most productions play her as a teenager or a very young woman. She's the daughter of Polonius, like I said, the king's chief counselor. He's a man who loves the sound of his own voice and has made a career out of meddling in other people's business. Her brother is a fiery and protective older sibling who warns her early in the play to stay away from Hamlet because princes, well, let's just say they don't have the best record of treating women well, and he's looking out for his sister. And the thing is, Ophelia listens. That's the thing about Ophelia, her obedience. That is her defining trait. Her brother says, don't see Hamlet anymore, and she says, okay, fine. Her father says, give me all of Hamlet's love letters so I can show them to the king, and she says, yes, father, sure thing. She's pulled this way and that. She's a pawn in other people's schemes. Meanwhile, our hero Hamlet is spiraling. He's actually pretending to be mad, or maybe he really is mad. Scholars have been debating that for 400 years. I don't have the answer. Polonius sends Ophelia to accidentally bump into him so that they can watch from the shadows, and Hamlet lashes out and he tells her, get thee to a nunnery, which could mean a convent, or in Shakespeare's cheekier slang, it could mean a brothel. Either way, it's cruel. He's rejecting her love, he's mocking her innocence, and he's humiliating her in front of the court. From that point, Ophelia unravels, and it's not just about Hamlet. Shortly after, her father is killed by Hamlet, no less, because this is a tragedy. This is an accident where he stabs Polonius through a curtain, thinking that he's Claudius. Suddenly, Ophelia has lost everything. She's lost her love, her father, her protector, and her mind can't bear the weight. And that is when we get her very famous mad scenes. She wanders through the court. She sings strange, fragmented ballads about lost love and death and betrayal. She hands out flowers with symbolic meaning: rosemary for remembrance, pansies for thoughts, fennel for flattery, and rue for repentance. If you've never watched the Mel Gibson version of Hamlet from around 1992-ish, I watched it in high school, please go back and watch it and see Helena Bonham Carter as Ophelia. She was beyond brilliant in these scenes. I'm going to actually rewatch it with my kiddo this week because that's what I want to do. But you should definitely go back. Whether or not the flowers were physically on stage, audiences of Shakespeare's time would have recognized each one as a loaded symbol. It was both unsettling and heartbreaking. Ophelia is finally speaking the truths that no one wants to hear, but she can only do it through the language of madness. Then comes the fate that has haunted audiences for centuries. Ophelia drowns. We never actually see it happen on the stage. Shakespeare leaves that moment itself off screen, as it were. Instead, Queen Gertrude comes in and describes it in one of the most hauntingly beautiful passages that Shakespeare ever wrote. There is a willow grows aslant brook that shows his hoar leaves in the glassy stream. There with fantastic garlands did she come, of crow feathers, nettles, daisies, and long purples, till that her garments, heavy with their drink, pulled the poor wretch from her melodious lay to muddy death. Muddy death. In Gertrude's telling, Ophelia had climbed into a willow tree carrying her garlands of wildflowers. A branch broke, she fell into the brook, and for a while she floated, singing snatches of old songs, her clothes billowing in and out, keeping her afloat. But eventually the weight of the water dragged her down, and she sank. It's achingly poetic, but it's also ambiguous. Was it an accident, or did she let herself sink on purpose? Even the gravediggers in the next scene have a debate about whether or not she should be buried in consecrated ground, hinting that it might not have been an accident. Shakespeare never clarifies. That uncertainty is part of what makes her fate so compelling to us. What is clear is that she dies young. She was silenced, undone by forces outside of her control. She's collateral damage in a world of men plotting revenge and power. Her madness gave her a fleeting voice, and her death turned her into a symbol. And what a symbol she is. For centuries, Ophelia has been painted, sung about, reimagined as the archetype of the beautiful doomed maiden. The most famous image is this 1852 John Everett Millais' painting showing her floating in the water, surrounded by flowers, pale and serene in death. That painting practically cemented her as the romanticized icon of tragic femininity. But in Shakespeare's time, the scene would have struck differently. Drowning was a common death for women accused of madness, and it was often treated as a moral failure, a warning against female weakness. Elizabethan audiences would have seen Ophelia as a victim, yes, but also as a cautionary tale. This is what happens when women step outside the boundaries of obedience and silence. So let's step back and ask, what does Ophelia's fate tell us about the world that Shakespeare was writing in, Elizabethan England? First, remember, women in Elizabethan society had very little formal power, even though there was a queen. Most women's lives were defined by obedience, first to their fathers and then to their husbands. Choices about marriage, property, even daily life were generally out of their hands. For noble women like Ophelia, marriage was not about love. It wasn't supposed to be. It was about strengthening family alliances, consolidating wealth, and building power. So Ophelia's story would have rung true for Shakespeare's audience. Her brother and her father tell her what to do, and she obeys without any questions. That obedience was seen as a virtue. A good daughter was silent, modest, and compliant, and Ophelia ticks all those boxes. And yet her obedience still destroys her. And then there's her madness. To Elizabethan audiences, a woman who lost her reason was both fascinating and terrifying. Women were thought to be more unstable, more emotional, more easily swayed by their passions than men. These were ideas baked into the medical theories of the day, which believed that the female body was colder and wetter, making women weaker in mind and spirit. Yes, they really thought that. Ophelia's mad songs and flower symbols gave her a kind of freedom that she never had when she was sane. Through madness, she speaks truth about corruption and love and betrayal, but because she's mad, no one takes her seriously. And this reflects a larger pattern. Women could express themselves, but only in ways that were framed as dangerous or abnormal. There's also, like I just kind of hinted at, that contrast. Shakespeare's writing in the reign of a woman, Elizabeth I, sat on the throne as one of the most powerful monarchs in Europe, just defeated the Spanish Armada. And yet the existence of a queen didn't erase the deep anxieties about a woman's role. Elizabeth herself was constantly pressured to marry, to know her place as a woman, to defer to her male advisors. She resisted all of that, and in many ways, she redefined queenship. But for most women in Elizabethan England, rules hadn't changed. Silence, obedience, marriage, childbirth. Ophelia, then, she kind of embodies a paradox. She's both the model of the ideal obedient daughter and a horrifying example of what happens when that obedience can lead to destruction. Her madness and her death are a warning, but they also expose the cracks in the system, the pain of women forced into lives where they had so little agency. So, why does Ophelia still matter today? Why do artists, musicians, and Taylor Swift, Natalie Merchant did it when I was younger, keep pulling her out of the brook century after century? Because Ophelia is timeless. She's become shorthand for the silenced woman, the woman crushed by forces outside of her control. Her story is about losing your voice in a world that didn't even value it to start with, about being used as a pawn in other people's games, about the unbearable weight of grief and expectation. In the 19th century, she became an icon. We talked about that one painting. Also, poets, composers, even fashion designers turned her into the ultimate tragic muse. She was safe that way, a lovely, passive victim. But there's always been another reading too, Ophelia as a protest, as a reminder of what happens when women aren't allowed to live their full selves. That's why she resonates now in a world still wrestling with patriarchy, still debating women's voices and choices. Ophelia stands out as a symbol both of fragility and resistance. She's an image of what it feels like to drown under expectations and the aching yearning to break free of all of that. So when Taylor sings about being saved from Ophelia, the fate of Ophelia, it's not just a clever Shakespeare reference. I mean, maybe it is, but I'm reading more into it than that because that's what I do. She's telling her audience, I didn't let myself be silenced. I didn't drown. I found a way to keep my voice, my career, my love without losing who I am. For Swifties out there, it's both a warning and a victory. She acknowledged the danger of Ophelia's fate, but she rewrites the ending. And that is why the lyrics can hit so hard, collapsing 400 years of cultural baggage into a single line, reminding us that Shakespeare's women, even the drowned ones, still speak to us. So there we have it, my friend. A little bit about Ophelia, her fate, and why Taylor Swift might sing about her. So we will leave it there. If you enjoyed this video and made it this far and liked it, I would sure appreciate a press of that like button. It helps to feed that algorithm and get our content to more people. And I hope that I earned your subscription to my channel if I don't already have it, where I put out content like this talking about women and Tudor history, sometimes Shakespeare, on the regular. If you would like to continue watching content on Kick-Ass Tudor Women, here is a video on Lavina Tierlink, who was an artist who made more money than Hans Holbein, which I think is pretty cool. Go get it, girl. Here's a video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. All right, my friend, remember, you are deeply loved. I'm so glad we share the planet with each other, and you make the planet a better place. And I'm so grateful that we got to spend this time talking about Ophelia and Elizabethan women. I will be back very soon. In the meantime, don't forget to drink your water.